Johnny Morse, the owner of Bassler Shops, has written a letter to NASCAR and is very outraged by the comments they made against Richard Childress. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel and welcome back to the video. We got some pretty massive major breaking news as Johnny Morse, the owner of Bassler Shops, has written a letter to NASCAR and the higher-ups in the sport that he is outraged by the comments that Steve Phelps made against Richard Childress. It is worth noting that Johnny Morse has been a sponsor of Richard Childress for many years, sponsored the number 3 car for Austin Dillon, and has also sponsored some cars in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series for many years, and also has an association for sponsorship with other drivers in NASCAR as well. It has been a sponsor for a very long time, but he also has a really big friendship with Richard Childress. So he's probably really upset about the comments that Steve Phelps made. Reminder, Steve Phelps basically made some really bad comments against Richard Childress, where he basically said that Richard Childress needs to be taken out back and flogged. He also called him a stupid redneck as well, and he mentioned that Richard Childress multiple times is an idiot as well. But we're going to go ahead and read the statement that was put out by Johnny Morse today. Statement by Johnny Morse, noted conservationist and founder of Bassler Shops on NASCAR, and his friend Richard Childress. I've been a NASCAR fan since I was 7 years old when I started going to race at the Fairgrounds Speedway in my hometown, Springfield, Missouri, with my grandpa Will, who was a lineman for the Frisco Railroad. We watched Willie Crane, Mark Martin, Ken Schrader, the Wallace brothers, and others try to beat our local hero, Larry Phillips. In the years that followed, our company, Bassler Shops, has become a proud sponsor of NASCAR, a sport that resonates equally not only with our own outfitters, but with our core customer base, America's 180 million outdoor enthusiasts and 60 million hunters and anglers. I speak up today on behalf of the wonderful people in our company who consider it an honor and a great source of pride to have sponsored NASCAR and our friend Richard Childress and his grandson Austin Dillon for a very long time. Since Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Richard Childress welcomed us to the sport 28 years ago, Richard has become a special friend in life. He's a great leader, a fierce competitor, and a passionate advocate for outdoor enthusiasts and conservationists. He is a true American patriot, to all of us. Richard is a longtime admired and respected member of our Bassler Shop family. As I write this today, way too many of my fellow teammates, our valued customers, our independent dealers, and respected members of the conservation and military communities are outraged by how Richard and his family have been treated by some senior NASCAR leaders, meaning Steve Phelps. We are extremely upset by the recent disclosure of shockingly offensive and false criticisms of Richard by Commissioner of NASCAR Steve Phelps. For the Commissioner and his allies to attack one of the pillars of the sport is incredibly irresponsible and a disservice to everyone involved in NASCAR and its partners, sponsors, and fans. What Mr. Phelps may or may not be aware of is the fact that in attacking Richard Childress, the racing legend, he is also attacking one of the most respected leaders in America's conservation community. The commissioner has repeatedly labeled Richard as an idiot, a dinosaur, a stupid redneck, and a clown. The fact is, Richard Childress has done as much to build and promote NASCAR as anybody in the history of the sport. But Commissioner, in all of his rant, has only managed to bring discredit to himself and the sport. Many of our teammates have validly expressed concern that the Commissioner's recent revealed contempt for Richard Childress makes it abundantly clear that he and his lieutenants are not capable of being fair and objective when it comes to impartially enforcing the rules and regulations that govern the sport, including the objective assessment of fines and penalties. This is a threat to the very integrity of the sport. We can't help but wonder what would happen if Major League Baseball brought in a new commissioner and he or she trash talked one of the true legends that built the game, like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, or Babe Ruth. Such blatant disrespect would probably not sit well with the fans. Such a commissioner most likely wouldn't or shouldn't keep his or her job for very long. We write this letter with genuine respect for the family who gives birth to the great all-American sporting tradition of NASCAR. The France family is always celebrated the beginning of every race with faith and prayer and saluted patriotism with the singing of the national anthem. Respectively submitted and originally handwritten in Deep Woods, Johnny Morse, NASCAR fan, proud Richard Childress fan and friend. This is obviously a really, really big letter because Johnny Morse, like it was mentioned in that letter, has been a sponsor of NASCAR for a very, very long time, going all the way back to the late mid-1990s when he became a sponsor of Richard Childress 28 years ago, which was 1997. And there have been a lot of people who have come out in support of Richard Childress, probably not just publicly, but probably behind the scenes as well. As much as times I have criticized Richard Childress in the past for some of the conduct that he has put together, I think what NASCAR and the higher-ups did there was completely unacceptable. Now, it is worth noting that Steve Phelps has said it multiple times, and he did say on the stand yesterday that he's went to apologize to Richard for the comments that he made. But that doesn't excuse the fact that Steve Phelps went in and made those comments. And I do think Johnny Morse does bring up a really good point. Imagine if a commissioner of another sport, if we're going to go stick and ball sports, like basically like the MLB, for example, or like Rob Manfred would talk crap about players in the MLB. A lot of people would be very, very furious. Or Roger Goodell would talk bad about people like Patrick Mahomes, for example. Or there, of course, would be, in motorsports, for example, Roger Penske talking really bad about someone in the sport at one time with Colton Herta driving, or let's say Alex Palou, for example. That's what it kind of feels like at this point, or legend of IndyCar, like talking bad about Chip Ganassi, for example, or in like other sports, for example. Like that's the thing. The comment Steve Phelps made, he is the commissioner of the sport and is highly respected. When fans say stuff like this, you're going to expect fans that are going to say something like this. But for the commissioner of the sport to call out Richard Childress the way he did in text, I just thought was unacceptable, and that's probably why they shouldn't have brought that up at this point. Now, it is worth noting, we talked about this on the channel not too long ago, there has been a potential possibility that we could see some legal action presented against NASCAR by Richard Childress for multiple different reasons. It was revealed yesterday that there was something from an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, where basically they revealed that Bobby Hillin Jr. was looking to potentially buy a stake in Richard Childress Racing, and Richard was looking to sell a stake of his team at that point. Obviously, of course, it didn't happen, Richard revealed, because there were some issues with the funding, and basically they didn't have enough funding to bring in, and it wasn't enough at that particular time, especially with the lawsuit going on at this point between NASCAR and 24/11 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. That was a big reason why they didn't go after that at that point as well. In my opinion, when you have Johnny Morse, who's been associated with the sport for as long as he's been, and has been associated with Richard Childress Racing, sponsoring sponsoring Austin Dillon, sponsoring Mark Truex Jr., sponsoring Dale Jr. at points, sponsoring other drivers in the sport at like Junior Motorsports, for example, like Noah Gragson, and also sponsoring other drivers in the series, like Chase Briscoe, who's expected to have that sponsorship for a lot of races in 2026. This is a really big deal, and now you've got sponsors that are really frustrated with the conduct of NASCAR and the way they've been handling themselves, whether it is in front of the camera or whether it is behind the scenes. To me, I think regardless of what happens with the trial and the lawsuit, I think it's very clear that changes are going to be needed to be made at the top of the brass. I am not sure if people like Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell are going to continue to be respected in the garage, and if they do continue to be involved in NASCAR long term, they may be put in different positions, because I think there is going to be a change in the brass no matter what. And judging by the way things are going with the lawsuit at this point, if NASCAR and 25 Front Row in the trial right now, I don't know if NASCAR is going to win the lawsuit at this point, because Jim France did not have a good day the last couple days. Steve Phelps didn't look good, and Richard Childress was not very happy, and it seemed like a lot of people were taken back by some of the things that Steve Phelps said about the safety against like Kurt Busch and all that stuff, among other things. I just think at this point, again, I think it's very likely that legal action is coming down the road, and I think it's something to watch for as time progresses and goes on, but kind of wild to see that Johnny Morse has released a scathing letter against NASCAR. I think it's a big story, something to pay attention to, and I think it's definitely interesting that Johnny Morse has come to defend Richard Childress, and it seems like if Richard does go legal action, Johnny Morse will back him up, and I think there's going to be a lot of people in the industry that are going to go ahead and back up Richard Childress. I expect a lot of his friends to probably back him up also if Richard does file a defamation lawsuit. Not sure if he win, but that's something to keep an eye on as time goes on. So that's your today's special breaking news report on Johnny Morse writing a scathing letter against NASCAR. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's get some more of that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about the letter that Johnny Morse released earlier tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news video discussing news over the course of the last couple days. We got a lot of lawsuit updates, talk more about the Richard Childress potential sale, talk about some silly season news, Chris Wright, Daniel Hemrick being announced earlier today, some other big stories as well in the industry, like Spire announcing a development program for like Carson Hocevar and Tristan McKee, and other things as well that were announced earlier today. We'll talk about that on the channel. On Friday, we'll likely do a video talking about drivers who could join Project 91 potential. Some other content will be coming out as well. Over the weekend, we've got a lot of videos coming out. And my O'Reilly Auto Parts predictions are expected to come out probably on Sunday, and the Monday should be NASCAR news video. We got a lot of content coming on people like Haley Deegan, Jamin Gisberg, and Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bo Wallace, Ross Chastain, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Frankie Muniz, Cletus Zafar, Dodge, Ram, Brad Keselowski, Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, Will Brown, Stuart Haas Racing, 27 front row, Michael Jordan, Connor Zilch, Junior Motorsports, Red Bull, Daniel Suarez, you name it, all the good stuff we'll talk about on the channel in the coming days and the coming weeks as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content, other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, buddy.